Hi, and welcome to
Chatting with the Word.
My name is Michelle,
My name is Kathy.
and today we're going to continue with Testimony Tuesday, even though it's
It's
Wednesday.
but
day
testimony
late.
time. Maybe we'll call it testimony time.
Exactly.
Well, we are. So last week I had an opportunity to share a bit of my testimony with you guys. The object really is just to be as transparent as possible when we're talking about things about God. We don't want you to think that we're coming from a place of, holier than thou. We like people to know where we came from.
Exactly.
When we let people know where we came from and what God did for us, He makes it possible for Him to start moving like that for other people.
Exactly.
So today, you guys are in for a treat. Brace yourselves, because Miss Michelle right here is about to drop some knowledge on you. She's going to share with us just a bit of her testimony, but it's so impactful, man. I can't even tell you. The first time I heard her testimony, it blew me away, to be honest. Not a whole lot of people have gone through the things that she's gone through. But it's really important to remember that deliverance is the same for everybody, even though what we're delivered from is different. Healing is the same, even though what we're healed from is different. So, don't get caught up in those details. The object of the story is what God did.
Exactly. And I just want to mention that we share our testimony just to help and encourage others, because you may be going through the same thing. You may be going through something similar. But even just so you see that we all go through struggles.
Yep.
We all go through different tests and trials. There is no one exempt. No one's perfect. Everyone has a past.
Yep.
But the key is you don't have to be ashamed of it, but use it to show how God brought you out.
Yep.
Use it to show the power of God and Him moving. Let your mess turn into a message, and let your trial turn into a triumph. Because even though you may have felt like a victim, God can make you a victor. So don't just think, my past is so terrible. But that can encourage someone else who may be going through the exact same thing. So we just want to encourage you in it. And that's why we're sharing what we went through. And like Miss Kathy said today, I'm going to be sharing my testimony. So here goes. Okay, first, let me start off by saying, I did not grow up in church. Like, if you remember Miss Kathy's testimony last week, she did grow up in church. I did not. The closest thing we had is my parents would have us watch the movies on TV, The Robe, the Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, things like that.
I didn't even watch those.
Really?
Yeah.
We had to. We had to. It wasn't an option. And I didn't even understand about Jesus. I didn't know that you had to accept Him. I just thought, hey, as long as you believe there's a God and you're a good person, you're good to go. So I didn't know any of that. And I just want you to know that even though I didn't know all the ins and outs, God was still there, and He was still watching over me. He was still faithful. And I just want to share a quick story with that. And I think I was about 14, 15. Now, I would hear the voice of God. I didn't know it was the voice of God at that time. I would just hear a voice tell me to do something, nothing bad before, because I know you're gonna get started. And I would just go, oh, okay. I never questioned it. And to this day, I was like, why didn't I question it? And I'm just gonna explain why. So I grew up in New York City, and we lived on the 9th floor in Manhattan. And I would always run down the stairs. And I would run closest to the wall, on the railing, because the railing was on the wall. And so I would always try and see how fast I can run down 9 flights of stairs. That was always my thing. So this day I'm on the staircase. I'm getting ready to run down the steps. And I get down to the bottom of 8, and I hear softly somebody call my name, Michelle. And I stop, and I go, I know, I heard that. So I go back up, and I'm looking. I don't see anyone on the 9th floor. So I said, okay, whatever, I must be hearing things. So I start running even faster now, full steam. And I'm holding on the railing, and I get down to the bottom of 7. And I hear it again. But this time, the voice calls my name much stronger. Michelle, like that. And I went, okay, now I heard it. I know I'm not crazy. So I go back up. I don't see anyone. I open the door to the staircase. I look down the hallway, no one. I go on the other side of the staircase, look, nothing. So I walk back, and I say, wow, I know I heard that, but there's no one here. So as I start to go back down the stairs, I hear the same voice say, go slow. Go on the opposite side. Instead of leaning on the left side where the railing was, go on the right side. Keep your right shoulder against the wall and walk slow. Make wide turns. And I said, okay, again, you would think if you don't really know, you would question this. But see, I knew it. But, so I didn't question it. So anyway, I do it. Now remember, I only got down to the 7th floor.
Right.
So I'm doing what I heard, right? And I get down to the 6th floor now. So I'm just about to make the turn to the 6th floor. A man steps out. He has this huge knife, like a Crocodile Dundee thing back in the day, you know? Huge. And he comes out and he goes, oh, he goes, don't be afraid, Mom. He goes, oh, I thought you were somebody else. And then I'm still standing there like, what the heck? This guy could kill me in 2 seconds. I'm skinny as a rail, you know, at this point. I'm like 104 pounds, you know, and I'm 5'5". And he goes, but if you would have came down a few seconds sooner, I would have killed you. Yeah. He said, I would have killed you because I would have thought you were that other person.
Wow.
So it just goes to show you that God is there.
Yeah.
And that Satan is always looking to destroy us. He doesn't know our future, but I just believe he can see our potential.
Yeah.
You know, and he's always looking who he can bring down to the pits with him.
Oh, yeah.
So God had his favor and his mercy over me, and that was just one of the many. Now we're going to fast forward up to
a lot of years.
Yeah, just a few. Pay her no money. Just a few. And so now I'm already a cop. So yeah, there's a lot of years. I'm a teenager. I'm already on the police department, New York City Police Department. And I'm upstairs in my room and I hear a voice again that says, go downstairs, find a church and start going. Again, I did not question. And
which is kind of weird. Most of us.
That's what I'm saying. I never questioned it.
Yeah, most of us would have been like, that's a little strange.
I was always just obedient.
Yeah.
And like I said, now I think and I go, why? Why didn't I not question it? But I guess if it would have said something, if I would have heard something crazy, then I would have questioned it. But I never did. So I went downstairs. I'm calling churches. Now this is going to show you a little bit of my age. I was using a phone book, people.
Yeah, you know, one of those.
Well, yes, I still had a computer, but I don't know why. I grabbed the phone book.
It took too long for it to upload.
This one's a mess. So I'm sitting on a kitchen table and I'm calling churches. Now this is nighttime. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I would call the churches and I would hear the voice of the pastor, you know, hey, welcome to this church, blah, blah. And I was like, the first one, the voice was so scary. I was like, that sounded like Satan himself.
What do you
and
want?
I said,
Jesus is
no,
calling.
it was like a really scary, the first call, remember, it was a very scary, deep voice. Like, I was like, that's not right. And then, like, I called a couple more and the voice was just, there was something not right, I felt. And then I called this one and the voice was so peaceful. It was so calm and inviting. I said, that's the church. And I felt that in my spirit. I said, that's the church. Mm-hmm. So I get my sister and I say, hey, next Sunday we're going to go to church. And this is the church we're going to. She's like, what? Why are we going to church? I said, I don't know. But I feel like, you know, I need to go to church. And I don't want to go by myself for the first time you're coming. So we go to the church and we're sitting there. And I'm telling you, I'm loving every moment of it. And I just feel like, in my spirit, man, like something's telling me, learn, eat, grow. Like I felt there was an urgency to learn the word of God and to grow in my faith. So long story short, I'm going to say it, maybe a few months, 5-6 months go by and I can't get enough of the word of God. Now I become a member of this church and everything. I'm volunteering. I'm doing, you know, everything. I can't get enough of it. Mm-hmm. And I could never understand what was the urgency? Why did I have to learn the word of God so quickly? And shortly thereafter, the answer came. I became deathly ill. I was getting sicker and sicker from my effects from being a police officer at 9/11. I just ingesting all the poisons in the air. And I'll even go back to the very first day I got there. We pulled up in the van and I can remember when they opened the door, I stepped 1 foot out and I already start to feel like I'm going to throw up. So as I stood out of the van, I went down to the ground because it felt like 20 knives have just hit my chest. And I'm not breathing right. I feel like I'm gonna vomit, like I'm gonna pass out. Everything is a hot mess. But going back, fast forward, now I was still having some effects, but as a cop, you're taught, you push on, you go forward, you're here to protect and serve, you keep going. Yes, you take care of yourself, but this is your job, and, you're kind of being, I guess, tough.
Well, it's more than a job, right? So when
Yeah.
you put yourself in harm's way to protect other people, it's like a calling. So
Yeah,
you're
and
willing
it's
to
like
endure more.
exactly. So
than
I'm
just a
looking at
job.
it like, okay, yeah, I don't feel 100%, but I can do this,
Right.
And as time went on, my health deteriorated instead of getting better, like I thought it was going to do. And it got to the point where I was so sick that, because I had been out of work for a little while, because I had been so sick. So I finally, get to the doctor, and they're saying you're going to need a colonoscopy. So the doctor does the colonoscopy. I go in, and then when I wake up, I'm thinking he did it. He's going to tell me, okay, this is wrong. You need to take this pill, and you'll be fine. So I wake up, and he's just staring at me like, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, have you been out of the country? And I said, no. I said, ain't nobody got money for that. So I'm like that. And then he goes, and he's just thinking, you could see it in his face. And he's like, you sure you haven't been out of the country? I said, no. And he goes, your intestinal tract looks as if you drank a glass of acid.
Wow.
He said it is basically destroyed. He said I couldn't do a colonoscopy. He said you were already like bleeding a little on the inside. He said I can't touch you. He said if I touch you, you're gonna have to have a colostomy bag. And he said you've been somewhere, because the way your insides look, something is attacking you. And I said, well, I was down at 9/11 for like a lot. And he said, okay, that's it. He said, because the way your intestines look, he said, it's just, you're not going to see this like this. He said, it's too fast. So he gave me some medication. He said, go home and try it. And I did, but it just didn't do anything. I just kept getting worse and worse. And so while I was home sick, I was only wearing pajamas and sweats. So I wasn't cognizant of how much weight I was losing.
Right.
And so I think I had to wait about 3 weeks. And then I went back to the doctor, and I went to put my jeans on. And when I went to put my jeans on, they fell and hit the floor.
Wow.
And I went, oh, okay. Now when I got to the doctor, at that point, I was down about 25 pounds.
Wow.
And that short span of time. So now he didn't put me in the hospital right away. He still waited a little while longer, tried different things, different medications back and forth. But I was still out from work because I couldn't work. And I ended up losing more weight. I got to the point where I couldn't eat. And I don't want to be too gross, but everything came out like black tar.
Okay.
And
Which is usually, that's normal, right? Because if you're bleeding,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
response. So
there was, no formation, nothing liquidy, just disgusting. So I went back, and I remember the day I went back, I said, I can't do it anymore. I mean, this had been several months trying to fight this. And remember, I'm not taking in food.
yeah.
I couldn't hold it. And so he was like, well, you know what? Come back next week. So I remember on the way back from the doctor, I said, you know what? Let's stop by my precinct so I can say hi to some of the people there, because I haven't been there in a while. So I went there and I stopped in to say, hey. And I remember these 3 ladies who worked there. And I'm telling you, God sent them to save my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked in, everybody's just going, hey. I see them looking at me crazy, but they're just like, hey, like, But the 3 ladies, they took me into the ladies' room. They said, Michelle, we love you. We're going to talk to you. We have to tell you this. You have to go to the hospital. I said, what are you talking about? They said, Michelle, you're dying.
Wow.
You're dying. You have to go to the hospital. I said, what do you mean? They go, you look terrible. See, they said, you look like death warmed over. I mean,
Thanks.
that's what I said. And they said, no. They said, your skin and bones. They said, and you are dying, and you need to go tell your doctor. I said, I just came from the doctor. They said, well, you need to go back and tell them that you can't take anymore. Now, at this point, I had already told the doctor I couldn't take anymore, but he said, give it another week. So what I did is I went home, I called, and I went back, I think 2 days later, and I said, and thank God, because that 2 days later when I went back, my legs were so weak, I could barely stand. I could barely sit in the waiting room. It was terrible. So he was like, okay, we're going to do an emergency direct admit where you go to the emergency room and then they admit you right from there. He said, I'm going to call, I'm going to let him know. So I get to the emergency room, I'm waiting there. And I thought that it was going to be like an hour, 2 or 3. And no, 10 hours I was in the waiting room, in the emergency room. Yes.
That's crazy.
And I'm like so weak. There's nothing but blood coming out when I go to the bathroom. I'm trying not to cry. And I just started praying. Mm-hmm. And I said, God, I can't take this anymore. I can't sit here. I can't wait anymore. I said, God, please just let them give me a bed, because I was waiting for a room.
Right.
And I said, I just need the bed. I said, I don't even care if it's in the hallway. And I'm not kidding you. Before I could even finish the prayer, it was like right then. That was when I was like, amen. The nurse came by and goes, oh, we have a bed for you on the side. Won't he do it? Let me tell you. You can't make this up. I mean, God is so good. So now she told me, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait here in the hallway of the emergency room. I didn't even care. I just couldn't stand anymore. But they got the IV and stuff in me, so I started to feel a little better. Mm-hmm. And she said, it's going to be a while for your room. It may not be till the morning. So I was like, I don't care. I said, look, as long as I can lay down, I just couldn't sit anymore and I can't stand anymore. She said, okay. Do you know she walked away and within 10 minutes they had my room?
Wow.
I was like, God is so good. So now they get me up to the room. I can barely function. I'm so weak, right? But the power of God is going to take over right here. God did so much for me. I mean, that's why I can't tell you enough of how good a God he is. So I get to the room and there's a woman in the room. And she starts talking, and God forgive me, but my first instinct was, will she shut up? I'm over here.
I'm tired, bro. I'm trying to sleep.
No, I'm like basically on death's door, and she's telling me all her problems. And I can't tell you everything, but I just know she was having some family issues because she had some addiction problems, and she was out of her kid's life, but now she was back in it. But they didn't want to forgive her. So her bottom line, I remember the last thing she said was, well, if they're not going to forgive me, I'm not going to forgive them. I don't need to. I'm going to go on my life. Something came up over me and the power of God hit me. And I sat up in that bed. I said, well, if you don't forgive them, God can't forgive you of your trespass. And I started preaching to her. Not only did I sit up in the bed, at one point I got out of the bed and I started preaching to her. She's crying hysterically now. And I'm thinking, okay, it was all over when we prayed and said amen, and I got back in the bed. Then they moved me. They said, okay, you have to go in this room over here, and then I got my own room. So I'm thinking, okay, God, because you know how sometimes things happen for a reason. I said, well, you had me sick so I can talk to this woman. And
right.
No. So that was one of the things.
So you could do one of these things.
Exactly. I'm thinking, that was it. Now it's over. I'm going to start
here.
Right. Exactly.
Eat,
No. So it keeps going. So I'm in the hospital. Now, by the second day, the doctor comes in. Well, actually, the second day, because it was the next morning. He says, look, because he thought I was going to be in the hospital 3-4 days max. So he goes, it's a lot more serious than I thought. And we're going to have to totally rest your intestines and everything. And we're going to have to put you on a feeding tube. We can't allow you to eat. So I was on a feeding tube for 13 days. So 13 days.
Sounds like a nightmare.
That's just the beginning. But by the third day, I was so weak that I would just lift my head up off the pillow just to see if I was still alive. because I couldn't move arms, legs, nothing. And I had like 6 different tubes. So I had 3 tubes on one side, 3 tubes on the other side. And it got to the point that night of the 3rd day, like I was so weak, I could feel my spirit pull out. And it was like a gentle pull, like, because I was dying. And I said, God, the one thing I always told God I would not do for him was die. Like, I can control that. I don't know. I was going through things. I don't know what I was thinking. So I would always tell God, yeah, okay, I'll follow you. I'll do everything your word says, but no, I'm not going to die. I can't. Hello. So that night I said, God, you know what? I surrender all to you. If it is my time to go, if you're calling me home, then let's do this. I said, but I just asked, let me see somebody I know so I don't feel nervous. I said, let me see Jesus or someone who has passed away, like my brother or somebody I know. And so that night I went to bed. I gave myself like the last rites and everything before I went to sleep, because I said, there's no way I'm waking up in the morning, because I could feel my spirit leaving. And I don't know when I fell asleep, but all I know is I woke up the next morning and I kid you not, the sun looked brighter than I had ever seen it in my life. Everything was like a different color, like fresh, so fresh. I felt stronger than I did since this whole thing started. I mean, I was sitting up in the bed, I'm smiling, I'm like, ooh, bring me a cheeseburger or something, And so the doctor walks in, he's like, wow. He goes, you got strength and energy today. I said, yeah, I feel good. He goes, okay, I'm just going to let you know, it's going to go back and forth. He goes, but you made a turn. He said, and he told me that someone in the next room who was just as sick as like me died that night. And I had made a turn in the right direction. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, it was because I surrendered everything to God right there. Mm-hmm. And going through all that, through all those trials with that sickness, I would quote the word of God to myself. And I would quote Psalms 118, verse 17 to 19. I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. The Lord has chastened me sore, but he has not given me over unto death. Open to me the gates of righteousness, and I will go in them, and I will praise the Lord. I would quote that sometimes 20 times a day. Right. Day in and day out. But I know that was my turning point right there. Now, I was still on feeding tubes. I was still, some days couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move. It was still going back and forth, back and forth. So like 17 days later, I was out of the hospital, but I still struggled. I went through a period of 2 years, basically bedridden. I couldn't shower myself. I needed help dressing. I couldn't do nothing. And it's still a long road, because even to this day, I have, as you know, days where my intestines are so bad, like I just stay either in bed or home, and it's no rhyme or reason. One day I wake up and I feel pretty good. Yeah. And then the next day I'll wake up and I'll feel terrible for 2, 3, 4 days. But I am nowhere near where I was. Yep. And God can do the same for you. No matter how sick, no matter how terrible you feel, no matter how hopeless you think the situation is, no matter you think, well, the doctor said this. It doesn't matter what the doctors say. It matters what God said. Yep. God has the final authority. I had people coming in that hospital room, looking at me. They didn't even walk all the way in. So if they walk a little bit past the door, look at me, turn around and go back out and cry, because they knew that death was on me. Yeah, it was so bad. And even I had the doctor say later on that I've never seen anyone as sick as you recover. Wow. So I know that God did it. Yeah. And that is why God was calling me to church. That's why God was calling me to learn his word. I had to feed my spirit man. I had to get my faith up for that battle that lay ahead of me. There was no way in the world I was going to be able to win that battle without God.
Yeah. That's why it's so important too, though. Like when you think about it, it's really important that you remember, like, whose report do you believe? I remember that was a song that when I was growing up, whose report do you believe? We shall believe the report of the Lord, because his report says I'm free, I'm healed.
That's right.
You know, and so if the doctor had came and said, you know, I've never seen anybody as sick as you recover, so good luck, you might have taken his word and it could have been defeat. But guess what? You've never seen it until now, and God did that. You know, so
I'm just gonna add this one thing. Like midway through the hospital, I say about seventh to eighth day, all of the veins in my arm blew, all of them, and I had 6 different tubes in me, so I kind of needed it. And so they gave me an option. They said we can either go through the vein here in your neck or in your leg. And I'm looking at them like, what? I said, well, when you put me to sleep, you can do whatever. They go, oh no, we can't put you to sleep. You have to stay awake when we do it. And I'm like, what? And they said, well, we have to do it because you need this. And without this, then, you know, you're not going to make this. So I went with the leg. And I'm just saying this because I said, you know what, Lord? If they slip, okay. But at least in your thigh, right?
It's just a leg. You know what I'm saying? It's just a leg.
Oh, my goodness. He's like, don't worry, I'll hold your hand. So one was holding my hand and the other one's doing... He was like, hurry up. Because I was squeezing it so hard. That hurt so much. But it just goes to show another thing God brought me through. It is but the grace, power, mercy, and love of God that brought me through that. And I just pray this encourages someone.
I'm sure it will, especially like times like these, you know what I mean? Like just for a second, actually, thank you to our first responders for doing what you did, you know, back on 9/11 and really daily, the people who show up when we're in need, because we really do not think about the downstream impact to the dangers they encounter to protect and save us, you know? So thank you for that. And thank you for that. If you're watching and you're a first responder or you're an essential worker, you know, nursing, doctors, whatever the case may be, you know, we appreciate it because we don't think about this stuff, you know? So I just want to put that in there real quick.
Thank you. It's true. I mean, I think about it because I was there, but, you know, I did a job like that, but it's true. Some people don't think about it. They just figure, oh, that's their job. They're supposed to be there. But we're risking our lives to make sure you go home.
Yeah.
So it is very important to remember to thank them for all that they do.
And pray for them.
Exactly. And thank you for watching.
Yeah, we appreciate you tuning in.
Yes. And again, I pray this blesses you and encourages you. And just remember, don't be ashamed of your testimony. It shows you what God brought you through, and it will help to encourage someone else who may be going through something just like that or somewhat similar, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you again. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Also, email.
chattingwiththeword@gmail.com. If you have questions, concerns, you want to know more about Michelle's testimony, you know, we're going to definitely be sharing what the Lord's doing and has done. So if you have specific questions, definitely just email them over. We'll start to do little tidbits where we're answering those, going a little bit deeper into certain pieces depending on what you want to see.
And remember, the prayer line, the number is going to be listed in the
description.
In the description. I always go, well, what is that called? In the description, it's going to be listed. And feel free to call it because they're there. They're mighty prayer warriors. They want to pray with you. So you don't have to give your name or anything. You can do it anonymously. Just let them pray for you, okay? Because, hey, we all need prayer. There's no shame in that.
True that.
So thank you again. Have a blessed week. Take care, guys.
See you.